Are we watching what is going to be considered Nikola Jokic's third MVP season right now? Because if I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, that's what I'd be arguing. And if I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, I'm going to be honest, this last year has been pretty awesome. I was watching this Lakers Nuggets game because it feels like every time the Lakers and Nuggets play, it's just like an instant modern classic. And this lineup of Jokic, Jamal Murray, MPJ, and Aaron Gordon with literally anyone else. I understand KCP is a very important part of the roster, but he was out for personal reasons last night. But with literally anyone else. In this case, it was Justin Holiday. A lot of the times it's Peyton Watson, but last night, Mike Malone went with the hot hand, and Justin Holiday kept playing. He's a well-known NBA journeyman. We'll just call it what it is. Justin Holiday, he's had stints in pretty much half of the NBA teams. He was damn near out of the league last year. And with him, Jokic, Murray, MPJ, and Gordon, they looked unstoppable. Like that four-man lineup with literally anyone else looks so good. That's what good continuity looks like. Now, it's important to factor in last night, MPJ literally shot perfectly from the field. I understand it's pretty funny to talk about how, oh, he had 4 assists. That's the important part. But he did not miss a single shot, and there were some tough shots in there. But down the stretch, Jamal Murray was damn near unstoppable, and he was just kind of non-existent most of this game. But down the stretch, he lives for the big moment. I mean, quite literally lives for it. I mean, it's a thing on Twitter now to talk about how, oh, your team's not a contender if Jamal Murray doesn't drop 25 points on you. And honestly, there's some merit to that. As far as favorite players to watch in the NBA, especially in clutch moments, Jamal Murray has to be up there because he is just unstoppable in some moments. I mean, the Lakers didn't even know what to do with him. They had Cam Reddish on the floor to give them more defense, and then Jamal Murray was still torching him. And it's very important to note that Jamal Murray really didn't do anything else in this game until this final fourth quarter stretch where it was the most important time. They look to him in most of those situations, and it feels like every single time he delivers. And that's an incredible luxury when the other player you could give the ball to is Nikola Jokic, who's about to win his third MVP. I mean, that narrative has been done to death, but it just, every single time I watch the Nuggets, I'm so envious of the way they move the ball. It's very almost like early 2010s Spurs-like, where they make the extra pass, well, unless it's MPJ, and they find open players and they execute really well, and Jokic always finds the open man, especially when he's double teamed. I'm about to show you what is the most unstoppable play in basketball right now, and it's honestly not even close. It's this Jokic on the elbow to Aaron Gordon alley-oop. We've seen this play a million times down the stretch, and it always works. I've never seen it not work. And since we've talked about him a bunch already, Jokic is definitely about to win his third MVP. Like, this is not a drill. He's routinely picked teams apart this season with his passing and continues to be relentless with his scoring in the most important situations. I mean, Jokic over Anthony Davis with 1 second to go on the shot clock should just be an automatic 2 or 3 points because you know that shit is going in. I mean, he hit one last night, bank shot leaning away from just inside the 3-point arc, and it's just like, as a Lakers fan, what do you even do about that? What do you even do about that? That's just so deflating as a team. For the season as a whole, Jokic is averaging 26 points, over 12 rebounds, over 9 assists, whilst leading the Nuggets to be tied for the 2 seed in the West with the Thunder and the 3rd best record in the entire NBA. They're only half a game back from the Timberwolves at the 1 seed. They're 7-3 in their last 10 and are on a 6-game win streak, and they have only lost 5 games at home this season. Only 5 games at home this season. To me, there's not a team in the association right now that's more poised to make another deep playoff run outside of the Celtics, who are just absolutely blowing the doors off the Warriors as I record this right now. And in my opinion, if you told me in a few months that this team is the first team to repeat since the 2017-2018 Warriors, I would not be shocked at all. We haven't seen a repeat this decade yet, and I feel like this team might be that team. I mean, if we just look at their first round matchup, if the playoffs started today, which I think the Nuggets inevitably end up with the 1 seed, we'll see, but I think they do eventually end up with it. But if they started today, they would play the injury-riddled Suns, which let's assume they're fully healthy, which it seems like they can't stay healthy. That's a whole different topic in itself. But I don't think the Suns team, even with a full roster, is touching the Nuggets. It might be a 6-game series, but I'm not sure the Suns can even push it to 7. I get at the end of the day, it's a win over the Lakers, but we've seen a couple of these marquee, important games that the Nuggets have always shown up for. Like a month and a half ago when they went to Boston and gave them their first home loss of the season. That was an important game, especially for the Nuggets, who still had that championship hangover and were just trying to find their stride in the regular season. That was a very important win, and I feel like that win might be applicable and kind of a teaser for what might be the NBA Finals this year. I mean, we'll see. Very rarely does the 1 seed on the Western Conference side and the 1 seed on the Eastern Conference side both make it to the NBA Finals. And I assume this Nuggets team will be the 1 seed, and I have to assume that the Celtics will be the 1 seed on the Eastern side since they've opened up, I think, something ridiculous like a 7 or 8 game gap between them and the Bucks at this point. I think after they beat the Warriors today, they'll be up 8 games on the Bucks. Anyway, if I were having to place a bet on who I think was going to win the MVP this year, I would pick Jokic. I understand this is not an unpopular opinion because he's leading the league in the MVP ladder right now ever since Embiid dropped out of the race because he fell under the 65 games played rule. I just think Jokic has been the best player in the league this year. Putting my biases aside, I just feel like outside of that weird 3-game stretch where he was shooting like 30 shots a game and being incredibly inefficient, he's been very efficient this year. I understand that he's efficient every year and his averages are about the same. His true shooting percentages, in fact, a little bit lower, but he's been an MVP caliber player this year, and I think he's been the best player in the league outside of Embiid this year. Now, does that mean I want him to win it? No, I think Luka should win it, but that's my bias playing in here. I think Jokic winning his 3rd MVP could potentially put him in those all-timer conversations. I mean, there have only been a couple of players who have won 3 MVPs, those players being Bill Russell, Wilt, Kareem, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and LeBron. Like, all of those guys are either consensus top 10 or in that sort of sphere players. And then you start talking about legacy and what this means for Jokic's all-time placement. Is he a top 25 player already? I would say maybe not because he's won 1 championship. But again, you can't really take that away from him because 3 MVPs is something that's only been done by, again, like 7 or 8 players, which is just ridiculous. So I think Jokic is going to win the MVP this year. A lot of people think it's Shea. I think, to me, he's not the MVP. He hasn't had the MVP caliber performance. Like, wow, he just dropped 50 points on the Cavs, the random example, in a great win. Like, he hasn't had one of those games. Yes, he's had a 41-point game, but we're talking about like a greatness, like Embiid 70, Luka's 73, something like that. And I think Jokic is just a more dominant player. But when you start talking about specifically these like top 4 guys, throw Embiid in there too retroactively. Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Luka, Tatum I'm not including in that category. You can hate on me, Celtics fans, all you want, but I just don't think he's there. Again, that's not a slight against him. I think he's an amazing player. I just don't think he is top 5 in the NBA right now. With that aside, when you start talking about these guys, the differences between how good they are is so minute that you have to start picking apart little details, efficiencies, inefficiencies, defensive prowess, especially in Luka's case. He's not the best defender. Giannis, Shea, Jokic is at least serviceable, and Embiid is a good defender. Luka falters in that sort of category, but you would say if you're a Luka defender, which I am, his offense more than makes up for that. But we start picking apart these pieces of these MVP caliber players. Like, to be honest, any of these 5 players, if Embiid hit the 65 game mark, deserves to win MVP. It's just that close this year. And it's close like that a lot of years, but those Jokic years, that consensus Steph Curry year where he was unanimous, those are anomalies. This year just happens to be very, very close. And you got to just hand it to these 4 or 5 players, Embiid again in there retroactively, because they're just putting together these MVP caliber seasons, and everyone is just tearing one player down to build another player up, or tear another player down to build another player up, and it's just like they're all great. They are amazing, amazing players. In my opinion, if I had to pick someone today, it would be Jokic. But if you asked me in a week, what if the Nuggets just go on a 3-game losing streak? Maybe it's Shea. Maybe the Mavs somehow go on another 7-game win streak, even though they sucked ass against the Sixers today. And we're suddenly the 5th seed again, and maybe Luka's it, or maybe the Bucks, climb that mountain that I was talking about earlier, and Giannis is the MVP. Like, these are all possibilities. I think Shea is in that category too. Again, the MVP debate this year has just been so obnoxious. The ESPN narratives, the Twitter arguments, the music counts, cursing each other out on my timeline. It's just like, again, it's not like we're factoring in music counts on who's the MVP this year, because they're just all dick suck. But I think when it comes down to the vote, I think Jokic is going to win it and win his 3rd MVP, like I've been saying. And I think the Nuggets are more than poised to make a deep playoff run. But anyway, that's all I've got for this video. Y'all take care. Have a good one.